Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phils start a series with the Cincinnati Reds, and we'll give you an injury update on when to expect Bryce Harper back. All of that on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. I've been talking Phillies baseball for years over on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio. Happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much for 100,000 downloads so far this year over on the podcast side. So really appreciate that, and all the views on YouTube as well. Thank you. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on YouTube, so make sure you check us out in your preferred manner. Now, this is going to be a setup episode for what is a busy week for the Philadelphia Phillies. They played the Cincinnati Reds 3 times in Cincinnati, tonight at 6:40, tomorrow night at 6:40, and then Wednesday, an afternoon game. Then they'll have an off day Thursday, then 4 games against the Mets in 3 days, Friday, Saturday doubleheader, and then a Sunday series ender. So 7 days worth of games, but with an off day sprinkled in there as the Philadelphia Phillies travel back home and get set for a really big series with the New York Mets. And we'll have plenty of time to preview that New York Mets series later in the week. We'll do it on the off day. We might do it Wednesday, depending on how this series with the Reds goes. If it's non-competitive, we might sneak that in Wednesday. If it's a competitive series, well, then Wednesday we'll have a lot of recapping to do. But let's preview what's going on in this series with the Cincinnati Reds because, frankly, this is one of those matchups that should be non-competitive, and the Phillies have a bunch of these the rest of the way. If we just saw a great baseball team in the New York Mets, we're seeing the opposite when the Phillies head to Cincinnati tonight to take on the Reds. The Phils are sitting at 63-51. The Reds are 45-68. It is not a great record for Cincinnati. They're even worse now than what they were this season because of the trade-offs at the deadline. Luis Castillo, Tyler Mahle, both no longer with the team, with the Cincinnati Reds, so that pitching staff looks a little bit weaker. And because of that, a lot of beneficial pitching matchups for your Philadelphia Phillies in this series. Let's start with game 1, which is tonight. Noah Syndergaard will take the mound for the 3rd time as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. And he hasn't looked great in either of his first 2 starts. And yet the Phillies have won the first 2 games that he's started. He hasn't recorded a win in either of them, but he has gotten the job done, I guess, to the point where the Philadelphia Phillies have won games. So listen, I don't care if the pitcher is saddled with the win or the loss. I care if the team wins or loses. So Syndergaard goes. He's got a 3.96 ERA with a 1.27 WHIP in 91 innings pitched, 92 hits given up, 70 Ks, 24 walks, and 9 home runs. He'll face off against Mike Minor. Mike Minor has a whopping record of 1-9 on the year. Now, record not always indicative of how good pitchers have been or how bad pitchers have been, but the ERA certainly is, and Mike Minor is the owner of a 6.24. A 1.56 WHIP, meaning a base runner and a half per inning. It's not great. 62 innings pitched and 69 hits given up. He's only struck out 54, so he's also not a huge strikeout threat. He's walked 28 in 62 innings, while Syndergaard has only walked 24 in 91 innings. So you can work the count against Mike Minor, and he's given up 18 home runs. The long ball has really hurt him this season. That's advantage Philadelphia Phillies. And tonight's matchup, it looks like the Philadelphia Phillies have a 54.5% chance to win according to ESPN Analytics. Leaves a 45.5% chance for the Reds. And honestly, if I was a betting man, which sometimes I am, I would put money on the Philadelphia Phillies money line and the Philadelphia Phillies run line spread tonight because I really like them in a bounce back effort against the Reds this evening. Now, coming up tomorrow, we have Kyle Gibson taking the mound, and Gibson will try and build on what have been a couple of good outings for him. And then TJ Zook will go for the Cincinnati Reds. Now, Zook is a 27-year-old was born in 1995. Makes me feel old because I was born in 1994. A righty that's 0-1 this year, record-wise, with a 13.5 ERA. 13.50. It is not a great ERA, and he's only got 53 career innings pitched in the major leagues. He has 4 innings pitched in this year's regular season in 2022. He's just faced the Mets one time, and the Cincinnati Reds ended up losing 10-2. Now, the Phillies in the past have had issues with young pitchers that they're not familiar with, and I hesitate with how the offense has been going to call any pitching matchup a lock win. But Kyle Gibson versus TJ Zook, yeah, this is advantage Philadelphia again. And then on Wednesday, you round out the series, 12:35 p.m. game. Nick Lodolo takes the mound to face off against Ranger Suarez. Suarez just outdueled Max Scherzer. I think you'll have no trouble with Nick Lodolo, even though the numbers for Lodolo actually say he's been pretty solid this year. A 3-4 record with a 4.72 ERA, 64 strikeouts, and a 1.66 whip. That's not bad, especially considering what he's got behind him in Cincinnati. Defense-wise, he's only 24. He's a bright spot for the Cincinnati Reds looking forward as a guy that could develop into a strong professional pitcher. Lefty, so you're going to have to talk about what do you do with Bryson Stott? What happens with Kyle Schwarber if he is available with that calf strain in this one? What do you do with Brandon Marsh, who's normally your everyday center fielder? Do you go Matt Vierling out there if Kyle Schwarber is available to play in the corners? Questions there with the lefty status, but that's still Ranger Suarez just outdueled Max Scherzer. So, yeah, I'm absolutely giving the advantage to the Philadelphia Phillies in that one. You never go into a series expecting a sweep. I said that when the Phillies had the 4-game sweep of the Nationals. I said that when the Phillies had the 4-game sweep of the Pittsburgh Pirates. You just can't. Baseball's too variable. But winning 2 of 3 here would be huge, and winning 3 of 3 would not be unexpected, especially with 4 games against the Mets looming. Yeah, 3 of 3 in Cincinnati would be great to put the Phillies back on path to be in the middle of that wild card race. But you have to win this series, and I firmly believe the Philadelphia Phillies will. I talked in last episode about the issues with the offense struggling, and this might be a good time to go on a skid. Well, I'm talking about in general. This series, though, would not be a good time for the Philadelphia Phillies to come up short at the dish, and I don't think they will. This is a team that's been rather consistent since Rob Thompson has taken over, and I think they're going to continue to be so against the Cincinnati Reds tonight. And it starts with a pitcher in Mike Minor that you should fully be able to take advantage of. So we've got that going for us, which is nice. No lineups out yet for either of the teams, but we'll keep an eye out to see what Kyle Schwarber has as far as his availability and how the Phillies line up against Minor tonight. I'd imagine because of the Sunday kind of a quieter lineup and the lefty on the mound that we'd see a pretty average lineup for the Philadelphia Phillies. Maybe we'll see Nick Maton, but I doubt it. I think this is Bryson Stott leading off all the way unless Kyle Schwarber's fully healthy. And we'll hear that report from Rob Thompson pregame. But coming up next, I'm going to give you a little bit of an injury update because there have been a lot of Phillies in and out of the lineup. The Phillies have made a call up. They've made a send down. They put someone on the 15-day injured list. We're getting reports about Harper. We're checking in on guys that had been hurt and have come back and how they performed since. This is the time of year where some guys start to break down. Some guys start to come back from midseason injuries, and the Phillies have a little bit of a complicated situation going on with that. So I'll share the latest news on guys like Kyle Schwarber, on guys like Bryce Harper, on guys like Corey Knebel, who left Sunday's game with discomfort against the New York Mets, and the guys that are replacing them or guys that have just gotten healthy like a Gene Segura or people that are being called up. So we'll discuss all of that next as we preview what's going to be a busy week for the Philadelphia Phillies and one where they'll have to bounce back from a little bit of a low offensive output week this past week against the Marlins and the Mets. That comes up next on today's Locked On Phillies. Well, the Phillies are gearing up for fall baseball, and your small business should too. And as you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. So you want to go to LinkedIn Jobs. They're here to make it easier for you to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn and reach the world's largest professional network, 810 million people. You can add the job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. It helps spread the word. And there's simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to talk to just the people you want to talk to, the qualified ones that are interested in your specific position. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. And LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates that you want to talk to faster than the leading competitors. I don't know if you knew this, but every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, it's time to talk injuries. They're never fun, and the Philadelphia Phillies have been dealing with their fair share of them this year, including a lengthy absence from Bryce Harper and Jean Segura. We'll talk about what's going on with the team right now and everything going on with the injury bug that's, well, it's biting everyone around baseball. And the Phillies, they've been kind of in the middle when it comes to it. Yeah, sure, Bryce Harper has been out for a while, but they've been withstanding that. They've been treading water. They've been winning, actually. They've been doing better than treading water since Bryce Harper's been out. But they're still missing a guy who's an MVP candidate. Kyle Schwarber's now been hurt. Jean Segura had a lengthy absence. Alec Boehm had a little bit of an issue. Zach Eflin is a reason they needed to go get a pitcher at the deadline. So plenty of issues with the injuries that we'll talk about. I didn't even mention Zach Eflin when I teased this segment because I forgot about it, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Let's start with the big news, though. Bryce Harper is taking on-field BP at Citizens Bank Park today. Yeah, the team's in Cincinnati. You heard that right. Bryce Harper stayed back from the road trip. He's taking on-the-field batting practice at Citizens Bank Park, and if all goes well, the next step, Rob Thompson said, would be to simulate high velocity in the batting cage. So they got the batting cage under the stadium at Citizens Bank Park, back by the locker room. And then they've also got the on-the-field BP. And the on-the-field BP is a little bit more of an opportunity to see the pop that he has. It's a little bit higher intensity batting practice than what you can do down in the cages. And then you can go back down to the cages, and instead of seeing the 78 to 80 miles an hour batting practice pitching, well, you can see 95 to 100 like he's going to see at the major league level when he's ready to play again. So that's great news. Here's the estimated time frame for return for Bryce Harper. And what we're going to use for this is Jean Segura's time in the minor leagues. Very similar amount of time missed. Actually, Jean Segura and Bryce Harper are going to break about even as far as the days in between starts. Jean Segura was injured on May 31st. Half a month behind Jean Segura, first August 2nd. So, yeah, now we're at August 15th. Bryce Harper, both of them both with broken ears that require surgery. Harper's cleared for the max velocity or the high velocity stuff in the cage. The next step will be a short rehab stint down in the minor leagues. They're not sure where he's going to go. He could go to Florida, to high A ball, triple A Lehigh. The reason for sending him to potentially be the warmer weather. Make you feel a little bit better now that we're getting into August. It's still hot some places, but that hot weather can be a little bit better for making things feel looser. Also you want him to see lower level pitching because he doesn't have to see triple A ball, being a great hitter like Bryce Harper. He just needs to see live pitching to feel how he feels. Like Jean Segura may have needed more of a feel for seeing pitches. Bryce Harper may be just ready to go, and it's more of a stress test than actually getting him ramped up to seeing major league pitching again. Whatever the case may be, he'll do a minor league rehab stint. And that could start as early as the end of this week. So let's say, just for fun, it starts on Friday when the Phillies start their series against the New York Mets. That'll be Friday. What is it? August 18th is Friday. Let me just check my calendar here. August 19th is Friday. Now, Jean Segura started his rehab stint in AAA Lehigh on July 26th. He participated in 8 games in the minor leagues before he came up. Expect similar from Bryce Harper. It'll be about another week from him going down to the minors until he comes up. So if he goes Friday, well, you could expect him potentially next Friday to come up with the Philadelphia Phillies if everything holds the time frame. So I would say that the earliest you're probably going to see Bryce Harper available for the Philadelphia Phillies, and I'm just pulling up the schedule here, will be not this Friday, August 19th against the New York Mets, but it could potentially be the Friday home series with the Pittsburgh Pirates starting on August 26th. Even if he's not available for that one, I would be surprised if he doesn't make the West Coast trip after the Pittsburgh Pirates on August 28th. The series ends on the 28th of August at Citizens Bank Park. The Phillies go on a 6-game West Coast road trip, 3 in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, 3 in San Francisco against the Giants. And I would bet right now that Bryce Harper is on that trip. Whether he's debuted already at home or whether he's just coming back for that Arizona series on the road, I think Bryce Harper will be available by then. So that's a target return in my mind for Harper to come back from injury. Now, Kyle Schwarber, let's move on to some other guys who are feeling it a little bit. Schwarber is potentially available today. We saw him pinch hit in the series in New York against the Mets, which says it's not a serious injury. It means that he's available in minimal capacity. They're just worried about further injuring. It's a deep tissue injury with the calf strain, which is kind of tough to feel. And it's easy to re-aggravate, so you have to be careful. We'll hear pre-game from Rob Thompson about whether or not Schwarber is available. I'd fully expect, because Schwarber has made the trip to Cincinnati, I'd expect him to be fully available in one of the 3 games in this series. This is the last series where he'll be limited, and then hopefully he stays healthy the rest of the way. So Kyle Schwarber, we should be seeing him since or sometime this series in full capacity, playing in the field, full-time DH, whatever that means for the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'd expect it'll probably be game 2 because of the righty you're facing on the mound in that one. Now, Corey Knebel left the Philadelphia Phillies New York Mets matchup this Friday with a little bit of an issue with a lat strain. He got placed on the 15-day injured list today, and the team called up Sam Coonrod, who we haven't seen Coonrod for a while. He'd been on the long-term injured list, working his way back from injury himself. He's now available, so you swap the 2 guys. Now, Sam Coonrod, Corey Knebel, is it an even 1-1 swap? I don't know. It might be. We haven't seen Coonrod in months, so who knows what he looks like right now compared to major league hitters. But he was all right in the minor leagues during his rehab stint, and he's a guy that's got major league experience. Corey Knebel was no longer throwing the high leverage innings. He was like a 6th or a 7th inning guy, sometimes in tight games, but not the 7th, 8th, or 9th of what he originally was when he was the closer for this team. So can Sam Coonrod make up for that? Sure. And also the David Robertson move is the depth you need for when things like this happen. So the Phillies are prepared for that. That's great news. So it looks like Coonrod for Knebel will be the swap, and we'll see how long Knebel's out. And Zach Eflin, he pitched again. He felt pain in his knee again while he was throwing a simulated game. Who knows when he's going to be back, but there's no expectation for him to rejoin the team. No one knows if he's going to pitch again this year, what his role would be if he did, or anything like that. So Zach Eflin's still a major, major question mark with no expectation for return, which means this Saturday doubleheader between the Mets and the Phillies is going to have Bailey Falter and Noah Syndergaard, the 2 pitchers for that one. Falter coming up to be the second starter for the Phillies in the second game of the doubleheader. So we'll see how that goes. Not exactly pitching power for the Philadelphia Phillies. And Zach Eflin's time in a Philadelphia Phillies uniform could very possibly be over if he's not ready to make himself healthy, or if he's not able, rather. I'm sure he wants to be out there. But if he's not able to get that knee healthy to pitch at some point for the Phillies, even in like short relief, come down the September stretch or even in the playoffs, his time in a Phillies uniform could be over. But that's your injury update. The best news is the Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber news, which is that both of those guys seem to be on the right track. Schwarber should be available in Cincinnati at some point, by my estimations. And Bryce Harper, we're close, folks. It's been a long ride, but we are close, and I'd expect sometime in the next 2 weeks to see him back in the red pinstripes competing for the Philadelphia Phillies. So that is all good. One final thing we'll do in our final segment of today's episode, we're just going to take a look at the standings and see where the Philadelphia Phillies sit after what was a busy week for them with a lot of games that you were zoned in on. Sometimes when you're zoned in so much on Phillies games, well, you forget what other teams did around baseball. So we'll take a look at where the Phillies sit in the standings just for some housekeeping rather, as we wrap up today's Locked On Phillies. All right, let me tell you all about my friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. You can find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. A great finish at the FedEx St. Jude Open yesterday with a playoff between Sepp Straka and Will Zalatoris. And Will Zalatoris won his first ever PGA Tour event. It's awesome for the kid. He's been knocking on the door for a while. BetOnline had all the information about his potential to win that before. So check out BetOnline and everything they do over there. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They've got you covered. So head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Okay, we're going to wrap up with a quick look at the standings as the Philadelphia Phillies, where they're a little bit lower than last time we checked in. Looking at the wild card, the Atlanta Braves at 70-46 are 6 games up on the Phillies for the best record of wild card teams. They're in the first wild card spot, and if the season ended today, well, they would host the second wild card team, which is no longer your Philadelphia Phillies. It is the San Diego Padres. The Padres at 65-52 are a half game up on the Philadelphia Phillies, and honestly, the Phillies are in a pretty darn good position right now because they would go to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. And those St. Louis Cardinals, well, they're the lowest caliber division leader to this point in the National League. They're the 4 seed in the 6 seed playoffs in the National League side of the bracket. And the Phillies would have to go to St. Louis for 3 games there at Busch Stadium, but I'd rather face the Cardinals than 3 in Atlanta against the World Series defending Braves. The Braves are a better team. So in my estimation, the Phillies are in a better spot right now, being in the 3rd wild card spot, but the Milwaukee Brewers at 61-52 are threatening. They're only 1.5 games back rather, and they just played the St. Louis Cardinals, which makes it hard for them to make up ground considering they're chasing the Cardinals in their division. One of those 2 teams is going to have to lose, which means any Philadelphia Phillies win gets them a half game on either opponent, or a full game rather on either opponent. So that was a nice series to happen for the Philadelphia Phillies, especially when they played a tougher part of their schedule. In the last 10 games, the Atlanta Braves are 7-3. The Philadelphia Phillies are 7-3. The Padres are 4-6. The Brewers are 4-6. So you can see the Phillies and the Braves are the teams that have been hot. And it's annoying that the Braves seem to keep winning on the same exact pace that the Phillies are. They had a better start to the season, but maybe this is the week where the Phillies finally start to make up some serious ground on Atlanta, get back into that second wild card spot, and maybe even get a chance to push for the first. The 6-game lead with 48 games remaining is not quite enough to feel comfortable for the Braves. They have to keep winning, and the Phillies see them a couple more times this year. So, hey, a chance for the Phillies to make that up. The other good news for the Philadelphia Phillies is outside of the Milwaukee Brewers, who are your second-place team in the NL Central, and again hold a record of 61-52, the next closest team to causing you trouble is the San Francisco Giants, who are at 57-57, dead even 500. The Phillies are 12 games over 500. So that 6 games back that San Francisco is from the Philadelphia Phillies, I wouldn't be too worried about them. They've got a tough division with the Padres now juggernauts with the Juan Soto addition. The Dodgers still nasty. So it's a tough task for San Francisco to make up any ground. I don't think they will make any noise. So really you have to beat one of 4 teams. The Philadelphia Phillies have to finish better than at least Atlanta, San Diego, Milwaukee, St. Louis. You just have to beat one of those teams, and then you should be good. You take care of business against one of those 4 teams, and you are one of the 4 teams that makes it in. And that's a great advantage for the Philadelphia Phillies, especially considering the Brewers and the Cardinals are in the same division. So that's a benefit. It's still looking very much like playoffs for the first time in a decade for your Philadelphia Phillies. They took a little bit of a step back, and it may honestly benefit them if that ends up being the case. But hey, That's where they stand right now, and a chance to make up some ground again as they play the Cincinnati Reds this week. So without further ado, I'm going to go get ready for that game between the Phillies and the Reds. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sully. He's the best at covering the entirety of Major League Baseball. He's got stories, historic facts, covers all the teams and all the hot stories traveling around the major leagues, I should say. And it's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So go check out Locked On MLB. That's all the time I've got for you today. And we will recap tonight's game against the Cincinnati Reds and preview the rest of the series on tomorrow's episode. I will talk to you then.